From being hit by a truck and nearly losing his life to now helping others find hope for their own health, Rob Rene has a powerful story of God's grace in his life. Welcome to the Grace Cycle Show. I'm your host, Karen Dittman, and this is your place to stop striving and discover a new way to live by God's grace. Rob, welcome. Thank you for joining me here on the Grace Cycle Show.
Super excited to be here. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, thanks. So you have a pretty powerful story of how God saved your life. I'd love for you to share just how that happened and how you saw his grace at work in all of it.
Sounds good. It's like I have an actually crazy life story, as a lot of us do, right? But what's fun for me now is I can look back at my entire life and I can see how it's been orchestrated by our wonderful Creator. I can see that each major issue I've had in my life, there's a reason why, and it's so fascinating for me now that I am so in tune with Him and what his plans are for me now. It's the first time in my life that I really feel comfortable and confident that I am walking in what he wants me to do. So anyway, the beginning of my life was I was a young man and I was a runner. I like to do all sorts of sports, but running was my big thing. And I ended up getting hit by a truck when I was running when I was in college. And at that time, I was really on a success path. I just got a full ride scholarship to a Division I school, and I was wanting to make the Olympic team as a runner. That was my goal in life, was to be a professional runner. And then, in an instant, that all changed. And I literally am very, very lucky that I am alive, that I survived that particular accident. And ever after that, I knew that God had a plan for my life. I just wasn't sure what it was. And then after that, I literally dove into what the world tells you to do, right? The world tells you to go get your degree and then you go get married and you have 3 kids and you buy a house with a white picket fence and you do like the whole thing. And I did that and I did it well. I really worked hard at my job and I had a successful career. And again, things were going swimmingly well. And then what I call is the second truck that hit me was the pandemic. And when the pandemic hit, it had a similar effect on my life. This time it wasn't a physical truck that hit me, but the pandemic just changed my life in a really dramatic way. I was going, in sales, traveling all over, and all of a sudden, boom, I can't travel. So they downsized the sales team and for the first time in my life, I was sitting back looking at what's going on in the world. And what I ended up discovering was both frightening and maddening and enlightening. And so during that period, I really uncovered a lot of health issues and I uncovered a lot of what I consider bad things with our healthcare system. It's really driven more for money
Yeah.
and not helping people. And that was really, really super frustrating to me. And I leaned back kind of on my early days of running where I knew that what I put in my body fed my body and fueled my body. That's why I was one of the differentiators of me as a young runner is I knew how much nutrition was important to me as a runner. And so when the pandemic hit, I went back to that. I was like, okay, I know that what we put in our bodies fuels our body, makes our bodies. So let's make my family safe and let's figure out a way to make my family safe. And through a ton of research, that at that point I was just like trying to uncover ways to keep my family safe. That was what my mission was at the time. And man, and then I started down this research path, and it's a skill set that I want everybody to have because I don't believe almost anything anybody tells me anymore because there's so much disinformation out there that it's really scary. And then AI is really scary. And the more you learn, the AI systems are trained on data, and that data sometimes is bad data. So it's pretty scary. You can ask an intelligent AI question something, and if it's trained on bad data, it's going to give you bad data back. And so I did two things. One, I started doing research on health. and uncovered a lot about what I call the medical cartel, really just people that are in this for money and not helping people. And then I was so frustrated with the world and what was happening, I started reading the Bible every day. And
Mm.
I'm like, is this thing true? Right? I said, I've been a Christian my entire life, but I was a Christian in the respect I go to church on Sunday, and then I wouldn't think about church until the next Sunday, in the service. I didn't live it out during the week, and didn't read the Bible. I didn't do the things that I should have been doing. So when I finally did read the Word, it was just amazing, right? I ended up
Mhm.
developing an amazing relationship with my Savior, and I really believe that He has been guiding me those last 4 or 5 years of my life through my research and understanding of the Bible and how it is true. I went through the whole TAP method, the textual criticism, the archaeology, proof of the Bible, and the prophetic proof of the Bible. And then just like, man, this thing is so verifiable. It's not even funny. So I guess I better read it. And
Yeah.
so I did read it, and I believe, right, and I became a really Bible believing, faith based person. And that really drove a lot of what I was doing. So I was learning all this corruption in our healthcare system, and at the same time, becoming a really strong faith based person. And I was like, how can me, little Rob, help the world in this situation? What can I do, right? I'm not a doctor, but I'm an athlete, or, was an athlete, and I knew a lot about health. I'm like, well, this maybe I can craft some solutions to help people. And so that's what I ended up doing. I've created a couple of health solutions companies to try to help people with their health, like in a very, very natural way. But I bring my faith into that equation as well, because I really believe the whole mind, body, spirit thing with our health is really important. So that's a summarized version of my life story. I
Mhm.
started off with that. I've had some major problems and major issues. I think I've almost died 4 different times in my life.
Wow.
But I know God has a plan for me because I'm still here. I haven't got my upgrade yet. So, I know He has plans for me. So after this last one, I'm just like, okay, I'm sold out for Him. I'm just like everything I do now nothing matters other than am I pleasing Him, and at the end of the day, will He say, well done, good and faithful servant? That's all I care about. And so
Mm.
I want to help people. I believe that's what He's got me on this earth for, is to help people with their health and their faith through that journey. So
Mm. Yeah.
that's Rob Rene in a nutshell.
That's great. Thank you, Rob. So it was during the pandemic then when you kind of woke up to maybe I need to be in the Bible more often.
Yes.
How did
Yep.
that happen?
Well, it was literally frustration because
Mm.
as I was uncovering the corruption in our healthcare system, I was researching it, and by early 1900s, the Rockefellers created this report called the Flexner report. And that Flexner report they used for really nefarious purposes, and they took over our medical schools. Not this is stuff that's not science fiction. You could go back and study it as well. And when I uncovered that, and you could see how they took over the medical systems, and they only taught pharmaceutical-based medication. All natural health practitioners were vilified, and that really frustrated me. I got so mad. I'm like, how can I have been so deceived for 50 years of my life? And so I just was wrestling, right? I'm wrestling with God. I was wrestling with the world. I'm just like, the pandemic was really scary. And so I just dove into the word, and I started reading every day, and then it's like asking Him for help. I'm like, what should I be researching? What do you want me to do? What am I learning? And I had a blast because I learned a ton about herbs and superfoods in the Bible. And I'm like, how can I take some of those and help people with it? And that's where the foundation of Exodus Strong, and the Exodus supplement we created literally is because of that research that I was doing and just asking for His guidance. And He was just really faithful and led me along the way. So it was really kind of born out of frustration for the healthcare system and being deceived, and
Mm.
then asking for help, right? And then
Mhm.
digging into the Word and finally believing that, hey, this document in Bible is actually verifiable and it's undeniable. And okay, so shoot, I should read it. So I've read it a number of times now, and I've listened to it a number of times, and I study it every day. And I believe that's our manual for life is the Bible. That's where my passion came for the Bible. And then I moved to Texas about 4.5 years ago, and I found an amazing group of men. There's like 300 men that are part of this men's group, and they're on fire for Christ. And it gave me confidence that I can be a warrior for Christ. And that has really changed me because I hated talking about religion and I hated talking about politics just because those are two things I really didn't know a lot about. And
Hmm.
so when people would, like I would tell people I'm a Christian, but it was like, please don't ask me anything about it because I don't know, right?
Hmm.
But now with the knowledge that I do have, of course, I don't know everything, but I do know enough that I'm very confident in the person that I am, and you can't take me off of that, right? That is who I am, and that's what I believe, and so I'm confident in that. I'm not afraid to talk about it anymore, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah. Well,
big change.
yeah, yeah. I really believe in the power of having good, healthy, supportive community.
Yeah.
So this men's group, can you just tell us a little bit more about this men's group that you're part of and how that's
Yeah, it's really
supported and changed you?
fascinating. It's
Yeah.
a church here in Frisco, Texas. We've got a group called the Mighty Men, and it literally it's a pretty big church, but there's literally 300 men that come from all different types of churches that go to this group, and it's fascinating. The respect that there's so many people there, and a gentleman, ex-Navy SEAL, is the man leading it, and so
Hmm.
he's just an amazing man of God and is helping people at the core, right? And
Hmm.
giving people confidence that the word is amazing. And you as a man, you have a lot of responsibilities, right? And there's a lot of things that you need to do. And so they're training up these warriors for Christ. And that whole process gave me confidence. And I'm actually now not part of that organization. I mean, of course, they kind of, they incubate you, right? They get you in and they train you and teach you. And then they want you to go out and spread the word and be the hands and feet. And that's what I'm doing now. So I'm using it in my faith as part of my businesses,
Hmm.
and I want to be able to impact people with their health, and then through their health I want to have these faith discussions, right? Every bottle
Yeah.
of our product, we include a prayer guide that goes with our product because we really want you to be using your mind, body, and spirit in connection to help you with your health. And so that's kind of that how that transition happened. And that men's group was a really big part of my training to give me confidence that the word is true and that I should not be afraid of it. In fact, I should be bold and spread the love, right?
Mm, I love that. One of the things that I think is so cool is just as we read and rely on and trust in the Bible, we find it works. And like I talk to people who study neuroscience and they're like, oh, yeah, neuroscience gels with things that the Bible teaches. And it sounds like you're finding ways that you're understanding through the word how our body works and what helps
Oh
us
yeah.
actually be healthy. So, share a little bit more about just some of the things that you've discovered just through God's word and his
That's
leading.
It's so amazingly true what you just said, because that is exactly right. There's a lot of health information in the Bible, and there's a lot of instruction on how the body works in the Bible. And some of the things that I was introduced to was I was digging into this healthcare arena and like, how can I help people? One of the first ones was frequencies. And I was like, wow, frequencies, that's a weird word. What is that? What are those? And I didn't understand them. And this gentleman had been, I call him the mad scientist. He'd been studying this for 30 years, ways that you can put frequencies on patches, and then it helps you with certain issues like pain or allergies or other things. And he gave me a patch and put it on my body and said, it's going to help you with your pain. And I was like, give me a break, right? This little patch has no medicine in it and it's going to help me. And it didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But that skill set of research, remember that, right? I just started digging in. I'm like, okay, how would that work? And then I started researching the human body, right? The human body, God designed this temple so incredibly amazing and complex, right? That it's literally made up of our cells. They interact with each other via vibration, and those vibrations give off a frequency. And so when I was learning about frequencies, I'm like, okay, that's a weird word. What is a frequency? And then I started learning that frequencies are everywhere, and frequencies aren't weird. Your cell phone uses a frequency, the radio is a frequency, light and color and sound are frequencies. So then I'm like, okay, so frequencies aren't weird. They're just everywhere. And this is stuff that God designed. And then I was researching the human body and how the human body works. And we're an energetic being. We're made up of water and energy. And it's really incredible how it is designed. And then I understood that any frequency can interact with the human body and even down to your cells. And I was like, okay, so now that's getting fascinating. Now I understand that. Now, how would you actually, program these frequencies on these little patches? And that I didn't understand either. So I did a bunch of research on that, and it's really cool. How a computer can hold ones and zeros, and we all know that we all use computers and technology, and it can hold information. We put little microscopic crystals basically on these patches, so it's called a crystalline structure. So it's really just really microscopic crystals, and these crystals can hold information. And it's really, really fascinating. Scientists from Stanford and IBM have both validated these little structures can hold information. They can hold a lot more information than a one and a zero. Like a computer can hold a one and a zero, and that's it. But these little crystals can hold intentions. They can hold frequencies. They can hold information in it. And then when you apply it to the human body, it connects to the human body's energy system. And so I've studied the human body's energy system, how we literally do have an energy system and how it interacts with other things. Most people recognize that you can walk into a room and you can kind of feel the energy, right? And somebody walks into the room and you can feel their energy. But that when you start doing the research on that, it's like literally real and it's true. And so I started understanding how the human body reacts and is working. And so the first one that got me so fascinated was frequencies, and that was really exciting to me when I was doing that because I didn't understand it. I didn't believe it at all at the beginning, and then I'm like, okay, this is actually fascinating, and it started helping a lot of people. So we were using these patches and with pain, and it helped people in a really dramatic way. I had people with chronic pain for decades, and all of a sudden they're using the little patch. It's relatively inexpensive comparatively, and it really helped them a lot with their management. And so I was like, wow, this is super cool. And that was my first iteration. The second big one was hydrogen, right? God created hydrogen, right? So it's the smallest element in the world, right? It's like the first item on the periodic table is hydrogen. So I was starting to research that and what it was doing. And I was researching the biblical herbs in the Bible to make up a supplement. That was like my original thought. And I was like, how can I find something that's just special that would really help people? And I found some amazing ingredients in the Bible, but nothing that was like different than that was already out there. But the Lord led me to this practitioner who had been working with hydrogen. And when we did research on hydrogen and getting molecular hydrogen inside the body into your bloodstream and the positive effects that it has on your bloodstream, I'm just like, that's really cool. So we ended up taking that capability of getting molecular hydrogen in the bloodstream, and then we added 7 complementary biblical herbs that complement what the molecular hydrogen does. And that was the foundation of the product we call Exodus. And I learned that all through just researching the Bible and how hydrogen works and how it interacts with the body. And that was just all came from, oh my gosh, God made that's amazing. How does that work? And started doing a bunch of research and what kind of effect does it have on people? And that's been a lot of fun. So the herbs and superfoods were kind of my first, the frequency thing was first because I didn't believe it. So I had to go to the word a lot too. I'm like, Lord, is this real? Right? Is this true? Is this something I should research, or is this something, a lot of people get worried about the New Age movement and how
Hmm.
the New Age movement really kind of taken over the frequency terms and people get freaked out about it. They think it's new age, but God created frequencies, right? The new age movement didn't create frequencies. God created them. So frequencies aren't bad. Can you do bad things with it? And do I believe that the devil has taken over some of that arena? Yes, right. But at the same point, that doesn't disregard the fact that frequencies are real and our bodies are made up of energy, and we can use those frequencies for good. And so that's what I'm having a blast doing is like just let's take all the things that God has created and let's get our bodies back to the basics. And that whole mind body spirit connection was the third element that was so fascinating to me in the respect that the research that you're doing on your mind and your mind can literally control the body. And so that's fascinating. Like, how does that work? Right. And so you start understanding that, and then you start looking at prayer and how prayer can have a literal physical impact on external things. And I didn't understand that either. I'm like, how is that possible? But, I did research with Dr. Emoto, and Dr. Emoto did research on water and rice, and he did experiments with prayer. Literally, pray over, have 500 people pray over a bottle of water, and the structure of the water changed just
Hmm.
because of prayer. And so that was fascinating to me to understand that not only does prayer work because you're communicating with your savior and he can do anything, right? But the physical act of prayer and a collective act of prayer can have a physical impact on something else. That was fun. So we, as part of our solutions, we pray over our products, but we also include a prayer guide that goes with our products because we want you to engage your mind. So the Bible tells us there's power in the tongue, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it was really power for you to declare over your health. So you say it out loud. They say the prayer out loud. You reading it with your eyes. You hear yourself say it, and you're declaring it. And then you're praying, and then you're doing a positive intention. So you do an intention, a prayer, and a Bible verse, all three together in a short minute and a half or two. And then we believe that that combination, in addition to using maybe our supplement inside the body, that's just you're integrating your mind, your body, and your spirit all to help you with your health. So
Mm.
it's fascinating.
It is fascinating. And, I just want to reiterate something you said because I think a lot of people might hear you start talking about crystals and go, whoa, I don't know about that.
Right.
But I do agree that there is, frequencies aren't just for electrical things.
Right.
We don't understand how our nerves work if we don't understand that there are, electrical impulses passing things from one nerve to the next, right?
That's
Um,
exactly right. Yeah.
yeah. And so again, God created everything in nature. God
Yep.
created the crystals and the
He
rocks
did.
and the minerals, and
Yep.
he made them the way they are. And sadly, the enemy has taken, I think,
Yep.
a powerful tool and ripped it out of God's intention
That's right. That's right.
and people are using that to what is it Romans says? Worshiping the creation instead of the creator, right?
Yes, yes, that is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That that
Yeah.
that really explains it, right? That's what they're worshiping is the actual crystal, and we're not worshiping the crystal. We're saying thank God for the crystal, right? We
Exactly.
we we thank you for giving us this crystal, and then man, if we can use that crystal for good, and we literally put Bible verses on our crystals, right? So every one of
Mm-hmm.
our products has 40 Bible verses on the patch because it's
Mm-hmm.
got the actual word of the Lord in it, as well as the positive frequency that helps your cellular health. Then if you're including the word, so literally when you apply those patches, it's got the word of the Lord flowing through your body. It's like just so powerful, but it's really hard for people to understand. And I get it because I didn't believe it when I first was introduced to these products and technologies. I thought it was silly. But the more research I did, it's like, oh my gosh, this is verifiable, right? It's a really smart scientist decades ago proved that you can store information on these crystals. And then other scientists proved that you can store other information other than the one and zero on these things, like intentions and like frequencies and like other things. And so when you look at those and you pair them together, that's what we're using, right? We're using the crystals and the frequency, and we're putting them on these little patches. It looks just like a sticker to you and I, right? Our untrained eye, and you apply it to your body, but it those frequencies and energy is connecting to your energy system, and then the effect is just absolutely incredible. So it's
Yeah.
really fascinating.
It is. And I know a lot of people really love essential oils. And from what I
Yeah,
understand, researching essential oils, it's about the frequency of the plant and the
that's right.
frequency of
That's
the
right.
oil, too.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm a super big believer in herbs and superfoods that come from the Bible. I've studied as an herbalist because it's like it's so powerful, right? You look at what
Yeah.
these ingredients and nutrients do, and they all have frequencies, right? And if we can take the frequency of that nutrient and apply it to a patch, you're getting the nutrient from a patch. It's just really
Mhm.
strange. That's what the essential oils, in a sense, are, right? There's
Right.
an oil that has the frequency of the underlying ingredient,
Hmm.
if you want to call it an ingredient or herb
Right.
or
Right.
type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it works
Yeah.
in a very, very similar way, and they're all synergistic. I look at sound frequencies, right? You can combine sound frequencies with the subtle frequencies with these, and you can combine them into stuff that really helps people.
Mm. Talk to me a little bit about some of these superfoods that you found and, a few of them and what their benefits are.
Yeah, it's fun. That's I'm
Yeah.
so passionate about because that's why we did it. So molecular hydrogen. Well, let me explain that really quick. It's fun because molecular hydrogen is a magnesium blend, and when it goes into your body and your body interacts with it, your body creates molecular hydrogen. And you're like, what the heck does that mean? And what it does is these little micro nanobubbles get into your bloodstream, and then they act as a master antioxidant. So it goes and looks in your bloodstream for the cells that are bad. They're called sentient cells or zombie cells, and they're just everybody has them, right? We all have bad cells in our bodies, and either they're dying off or they're going through the process of that all cells do. But there's some that just are just they're not they shouldn't be there. So the molecular hydrogen goes and attaches to the bad cells and helps get rid of them. But then the cells that are producing your ATP, your energy system within the mitochondrial process within your cells, molecular hydrogen helps those do better. So it helps your energy system just by being in your bloodstream. It gets rid of the bad stuff. So that's kind of what molecular hydrogen does. And then we're like, oh, how can we enhance that and make it better? So we looked at all the herbs in the Bible, and we picked these seven for specific reasons. We put barley grass and wheatgrass, and those are give people nutrients. If you look at our food supply system in the United States, it's getting worse and worse and worse, and most people are eating ultra processed foods, and the soil is degenerating. We're not getting the nutrients that you eat an apple today of what it was 10 years ago, and that there not near as many nutrients in the apple of today. So the reason why we put barley grass and wheatgrass into the supplement is to give your body the nutrients it needs. We need, as a human body, we need like 96 nutrients every single day. And if you're not getting them, you're supposed to get them through your food, right? But we very rarely do because of the way that our diet is today. We're not getting those nutrients. So we put in barley grass and wheatgrass to really help with the nutrients, and that helps with your energy level. If your body's getting the nutrients you need, you have the energy that you need. Your body starts working better. And then we include saffron. Saffron is the most expensive. It's actually more expensive than gold, which I thought was fascinating. But saffron has got some really good cognitive benefits, but it's also stress reduction. So it really helps with mood and stress. And so we included that in the product. And then it's got aloe. There's hundreds of benefits of aloe. Aloe is really good for gut health. And I have a podcast, and my podcast, I interview holistic practitioners a lot. And they all talk about how important the gut health is.
Hmm.
Your health really starts in your gut. If you can get your gut working well and you get your body the right nutrients, and guess what? Your body heals itself. And God designed it that way. God designed our bodies to heal. And so, I don't call a doctor a healer. I'm not a healer. The only healer is God, and that He created this body to heal itself. So we just need to get our bodies what it needs and go back to the what God's original design, and our bodies will heal itself. So I'm a really big proponent of natural medicine and helping people that way. And so that's why we included aloe was the gut health component. And then there's cumin, frankincense, and myrrh. And cumin, frankincense, and myrrh, they do a number of things, but in combination, one of the most important things that it does is help with inflammation support. And inflammation is the source of all disease. So, in every disease process in your body, it starts with inflammation. So, if you can reduce inflammation in the body, it's very, very helpful for the body. So a lot of people have pain, right? And when you have pain, it usually swells and it causes more pain because it's swelling, etc. So if you can reduce inflammation in your joints and in the body, then your body starts working the way it's designed. So the inflammation reduction is really, really important. So you take those seven biblical herbs and superfoods that we put in with Exodus and you add that molecular hydrogen, and there's no other product in the world that's like that combination. Just it's very, very helpful. It's a perfect product for literally everybody.
Mm, great. You're talking about barley grass and wheatgrass. People who have gluten issues, can they still use this
Yeah, because
supplement?
it's gluten free. Yeah, so
Okay.
we're using we're
Yeah.
not using wheat. We're using wheatgrass, which
Yeah.
wheatgrass is the actual stem of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
100% gluten free.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to clarify
Yeah,
because
no,
some people might
great
hear
question. Yeah,
wheat and barley and go, "Oh well, I can't take that." So,
right.
but
But
yeah,
you can.
it's
Yeah,
the grain, not the grass that has the
that's
gluten.
right.
Yeah.
So smart. Good job.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, we've got a lot of food sensitivities in my family, so I'm very aware of some things like
I'll
that.
bet. Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to share a big takeaway for our audience. But first, how can people get a hold of you or find the Exodus supplement or find these patches that you've been talking about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So exodusstrong.com is our website. That's the best way to find both the supplement as well as the skin patches. And I've been doing a lot. I'm literally writing a book called Light Code, and that book is a lot about what I'm learning with light therapy. So we're doing a bunch of things with red light and red light therapy, and you combine that with the frequencies that we have, and you combine the hydrogen product, and the Exodus component that we have with the mind, body, spirit connection with your prayer life. You take those four pillars, and we have really a cellular renewal solution. So it really helps your body from the beginning, help renew your cells. And so it's just fascinating. That's all going to be within exodusstrong.com. As we're putting everything that the Lord has been training me on and teaching me about health. He's just like downloading with for the last 4 or 5 years. That's all I've been doing, and it's so fascinating that I just like, okay, this is Lord, this is where you want me to do it. So I'm putting it all within Exodus Strong, and I believe it's really going to help people in a dramatic way. So Exodus Strong is the best way to do it.
Great. Yeah, I feel like we could just sit here and talk for hours
I know.
about all
Yeah,
of
I
these
could. I could
things.
talk
Yeah.
about each one of those ingredients for an hour, and or just the
Hmm.
amazing thing that God is doing in
Yes.
my life, and so
Yeah. So
yeah.
great. So people can go to exodusstrong.com to find out more about all of these things, the light therapy, the patches, the Exodus supplement, and the prayer life things. Great. So if there would be just one thing you'd like listeners to walk away with hearing from our conversation, what would that be?
That's an amazing question, and it's literally if you have breath in your lungs today, God has a plan for your life.
Mm,
So you are breathing today, so don't be dismayed. God has a plan for your life. And so when you realize that God has a plan for your life, then you start asking what is it that he wants me to do, right? But just know that no matter what situation you find yourself in today, God has a plan for you. So it's okay. And
mm,
it's going to get better. If things are not going well, it's going to get better, right? If things are going swimmingly, great. awesome. Hopefully they'll continue to go swimmingly great, right? But we know life has ups and downs. But I just want
Yeah.
everybody to be encouraged that you have hope, right? You have breath in your lungs today. That means the Lord and Savior has a plan for you. And if He has a plan for you, there's hope. And anytime you have hope, you can overcome anything. So I just want to give everybody that encouragement today.
That's great, especially coming from somebody who was hit by a truck. That is
That's right.
really, really powerful encouragement. Thank you so much for your time today, Rob.
Yeah, God bless you. Really nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you too. I found my conversation with Rob to be truly thought provoking. And I'm aware that some of the things that he talked about that he's discovered in his research on health might make some of my listeners a little uncomfortable. So I want to encourage you, if anything you heard today does make you uncomfortable, I'm not going to encourage you to do your own research, which most people would do. What I want to encourage you to do is to explore why it makes you uncomfortable, to dive into using curiosity to understand yourself better and listen to God. Is there a story that you've always believed about medicine or about how our bodies work? And that story might be challenged by some of the things that Rob's talked about. If so, just sit with that. Talk to God. And like I said, be curious. Honestly, I think it's far more important for us to learn to seek God in our discomfort than it is to resolve it. So, with all that said, I want to also offer you a chapter from my book, Thriving in Grace, Unleashing Wellness from a Biblical Perspective, which you can download from my website at KarenADittman.com. This chapter will help you understand God's grace in a much bigger way and how God works in the world by His grace to overcome things that are impossible. So that's it for today. Until next time, remember to get curious, stay connected, and live in grace.